we talk about like the theatricality of this world, in Metamorphoses, you talked about the kind of building of world through the body and so like that.
Yeah.
In my production of Dontrell, which is very bare bones, very minimal in many ways, we had to really rely on that. Like how do you stay? And this goes back to the kind of earlier question about like, what is a challenge or one of the difficulties of the text. Like you look at that swimming pool scene, like how do you do that? Like
Because you
you
don't
can't
have the
just
pool from Metamorphosis.
right, exactly. It's not just the pool on stage the whole time. Like we go so many different places. I mean, I guess you could stage it at the pool and it becomes the ocean or something at the end. Who knows? But we did not have that. So in my in our production, I thought of like what is, and this is a little bit of a digression. Sorry, but
That's all right.
in the production that I directed, uh, in thinking of that swimming pool, thinking of that scene, of that moment, I had to think about, okay, Dontrell jumps in the water and he nearly drowns, right? In that sense, like, what does the water become to Dontrell? Thinking of it in a more like expressionistic kind of way from Dontrell's perspective. Like, what does the water become? The water becomes like this attacker, this kind of this thing that you have to battle against, or uh, that is trying to kill you. Basically, that's what the water
Yeah.
becomes for him. This big danger. And so, anyway, long story short, in our production, the way that we express that is that scene became a fight scene. Like I actually had the
Mhm.
ensemble of actors. They embodied the water. They embodied the water in the pool, but they embodied the water as attackers. And so they they attacked Dontrell, and it became this intricate choreographic fight scene of his drowning in the water, but through capoeira and kung fu. Um,
Nice.
and things like that. But those things also took a lot of ensemble work, that kind of physical, that kind of training and physicality that we did. So there were lots of examples of that. But yeah, I think definitely in most works that I do, and definitely in Dontrell, ensemble work, ensemble building is a huge aspect of it.
Yeah, it sounds, I mean, it's all so super exciting, like, and that you guys like embrace that so fully. And I mean, I look at a line like Dontrell opens his mouth to answer and the ocean rushes in. And I'm like, okay, that's great. That sounds fantastic. How do you lift that off the page and
Yeah,
then express that to the audience without drowning an actor?
right. But that's super exciting, for
Yeah.
it's super exciting to think about how in the world do you bring that, like the visceral nature of that line, like it's like, wow, it's so beautifully poetic. How can you actually
Hmm.
translate that into the space? And that's where all the exciting possibilities of theater come in, because
Yes,
it has to
exactly.
be, because you can't do it literally, it has to be poetic.
We're gonna read up on a lot of plays and talk about them in many ways. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Read more plays.
And then I think
Um,
the final one, what was the final one? I think it was a life, a life. I think it was a
a life
life.
to
So it
save.
was
Yes,
yeah, a life to save.
That is
that's
some of
it.
the best acting I have ever seen in my life. I think it's out of
What do
me
you
goes to my place for pretending like he was remembering an answer that was
That's so
right in
rude.
front of his face.
It was coming right out of his head. I could see it.
What are you talking about? I'm looking
I
right
can
at
see
you all.
it reflected in your eyes on camera.
I always remember it like this. How,
Good,
how
good,
do you remember
good.
things? That is
I
correct.
did.
Those are all the
Yes.
correct answers.